Hi, everybody. I am joined today by the glorious Kate of Noah's Ark family fame, if you follow her on Instagram, but also the founder of Mini First Aid. So, Kate, if you don't know her, is mum to 6 kids, including 2 sets of twins, who are all utterly adorable. I've been looking at pictures this morning. As I said, Kate is the founder of Mini First Aid. She's also a Dragon's Den winner, which I'm sure is no mean feat. A writer, a children's author, and an award winner, I spied at last year's Best Businesswoman Awards, which is just fantastic. And I've got so many questions that I want to ask you today, but thank you so much for joining me. We've just been talking about where this kind of mini series has come from, and just want to be able to share lots of different takes on parenthood and how people kind of make it work with a career, and the way that people kind of put some of those things out there. So thank you.
Pleasure.
Something that immediately strikes me when I look particularly at your social media, I guess, is you seem to me, and this might be completely wrong, but you strike an incredible kind of managing the imbalance of sharing your realities, but doing it really elegantly within your own boundaries. Because there is this kind of whole narrative, isn't there, about you should share everything on social media, and it shouldn't just be the good stuff, and is it scrapbook or show reel type narrative. But I kind of felt like you're sharing your kind of day-to-day realities, but you're not doing it from a place of I'm going to bear everything in my soul, but I'm not going to also kind of make people think it's shinier than it actually is.
Yeah, do you know what, Charlotte? It's just, I think it's Instagram particularly is a place that you either love it or you hate it, and I sit somewhere in the middle of that, because if you were to look at, for example, number of people that like your posts or comment on them, the posts that get the most engagement are my prettiest pictures, right? And they're my pictures where I've got all 6 kids together. If I can get them, which is rare now, but in all matching clothes, that's where the engagement is at. And that's because people still go through Instagram looking at pictures and going, I like the look of that, I like the look of that. But my consciousness is to go, yes, whilst there's a picture, the narrative has got to be very honest. And the picture I posted at the end of last week, for example, we'd just been for a walk on the coastal footpath. We'd actually only walked for about half an hour, but for us that was a massive deal to get all 6 kids walking. Nobody fell over, and that we were all there and we were all smiling together. But the narrative that goes with that is that was really hard work, and that actually it'd be much easier to throw them in the car and go, right, let's just drive round to the beach, and rather than do this walk. So I always, my followers will know is that it's that honest, yes, I'll show you a picture of the desired outcome, what we got, but let me tell you in my narrative how it really was. And then also I use my stories quite a bit for my honest, because sometimes, and I'm sure a lot of parents will feel this, is that you're in a situation with one or all of my kids sometimes, and it's laugh or cry. You either have to go, this is so ridiculous, you are all screaming at my feet, and laugh at it. Otherwise you end up in a crying mess with them as well. And so I always use my stories like that. So I will literally have my phone with them like this, filming them underneath my feet, all screaming, and just put an eye roll. And then people will laugh at it or comment back and say, I get you, and what have you. So I hope that what people get from me is that, yes, I work really hard to make things look great and be great, because that's me as the aspiring parent, but the honest bit is that what did I have to do, or what did I have to put up with to get there? Because there's nothing worse than if you're having a bad day with your kids looking at Instagram and going, oh, Kate Ball seems to be doing all right with this every day. So I hope that, and I'm glad that you've cocked it, because that means that it's that the message is there.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely, and I am a big fan of being able, the two can coexist. You can share a reality, but you don't have to share everything if you don't want to. And yes, it can look beautiful, but you can also, share that story, can't you?
Yeah.
One of the things that I found an old blog that you'd written. I haven't been stalking you in a weird way. I like to do my homework though. You'd written a blog a couple of years ago now, and something that you touched on in there is a topic that comes up a lot for my parent clients in returner workshops, for example. I would say comes up quite a lot, and I guess in some of the one-to-one coaching sessions. And that was your kind of admission that you will think better, you'll relax more with a clear floor and getting the kids involved in tidying and knowing that the kitchen is, you know, clean of an evening, and that kind of reset, I guess. A topic that comes up a lot in the work that I do is that guilt of, but I should be with my kids, shouldn't I? And the world tells me that you know, I should be giving all of my focus and attention to them, and it's something that it drives me insane, because I really strongly believe that if you're going and like playing with the kids, but in actual fact your mind is somewhere else thinking, I really need to go do that washing up, or that bit of on that floor over there is driving me mad, then actually it's not quality time that you've got with them. There might be, you know, quantitative, but it's certainly not actually what you're wanting to aim for. And I think sometimes people do still really struggle with that admission that you're allowed to do something for yourself. And if that happens to, I mean, I realise I'm breaking it down to housework here, but that is something really common that faces so many of us. And I just wondered kind of where you're up to at the minute with that, and is that kind of something that you still hold very close to you?
So I'm obsessed with a tidy house. I'm absolutely obsessed with a tidy house. And, you know, and I know that there's that cliche, isn't there? And you've probably heard health visitors or midwives say it, oh, if we go to a house and it's all tidy, we're concerned because the focus should all be on the baby. So we don't care if it's a mess. And I know that the intention is to reassure you, because they're saying, actually, if you're in chaos, as long as baby is fed and watered and you're happy, then that's okay. But for me, my space, my environment is really, really important for me to be able to function mentally. And, you know, my mum laughs at me because I turn up to their house to visit and start putting things in the piles and angling things. And, you know, we got on holiday and the kids all took pencil cases of pens. And I was like, right, we need to find some cups to put the pens in. I can't just have them rolling all over the holiday cottage floor all week. We need to have them in some cups. And the kids don't care. That is absolutely for me, because it's my holiday too, or it's my house as well. And I think the key thing is I think you've got to tap into how you are, because I've also got friends who I would never name, but who live in total chaos, but that's how they roll. And I'm like, how can you find stuff, you know? And it does drive my husband a little bit mad sometimes, but I would rather not sit down of an evening, try and sit down of an evening until I've got everything sorted, you know, until everything's like, everybody's coats are back on pegs and what have you. And so I am still like that, but not to the point where the kids get ignored while I do it. So and mine is definitely about tidy rather than clean. so don't come and germ assess my house, but because actually, you know, I don't spend hours scrubbing taps and cleaning toilets and all that sort of stuff. What I like to do is just have things so we can find them. And so but that involves the kids as well. So we have tidy up time before bed, and everybody has to put their stuff away. We have a rule on a Sunday, because I have a cleaner that comes on a Monday, and the deal is that anything that's left on the carpet goes in the bin, just disappears for a while, but it's enough to frighten you to think, if I don't put it away, that... So the poor cleaner has got this terrible reputation for throwing toys away. Actually, she doesn't at all. She tidies everything beautifully. But so we do have that with the kids. And also it's because there are 6 of them and they've got a lot of stuff. And I don't like the surveillant families mixed in with the Duplo, and the Duplo with bits of Play-Doh in it. And for some people, they might be watching this going, oh, I don't care about stuff like that. You know, I am the person that when the Play-Doh comes out, I'm like, oh, you're mixing it all together. Now it's brown. It was supposed to be yellow, pink and green or whatever, you know, and it's like, no, what have you done? So there is a bit of maybe control freakery in me, what have you. It's not on a level. I read something recently where people were talking about having OCD and saying that people use the phrase OCD too loosely, because actually it's a really quite debilitating mental condition. And I do not have OCD at all. I just have tidy place, tidy mind. And so my kids have to get involved in that. And we get to a point in the day where we go, right, we're now going to have to put stuff away. They don't quite do it as well as I would like them to do it. So I do end up shuffling around behind them. But it does allow us to function. And crucially, it keeps me mentally where I need to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You've mentioned the kids, and there are 6 of them, and you are absolutely forever outnumbered. Something, and you've got 2 sets of twins in there. Something that it was in that same blog actually that you talked about was some of the comments or questions that you would get, particularly I think when your youngest set were babies, around, you know, was it IVF, or like questions about your fertility and all of those kinds of things. How do you handle those questions from a boundaries perspective? Because it played on my nerve, and it had nothing to do with me, and I was reading it and getting a bit ragey for you, because like back off, people.
Yeah, so I'm quite, although I'm a very confident person, I am quite passive when it comes to comments, and I tend to smile. And my husband Matt will laugh at me because I can be in the grumpiest of moods, and then somebody will come along and go, "Oh, you've got your work cut out," and I go, "Ha ha ha! Yes, off we go," you know. And so almost people get my best side, definitely. So it's a funny thing with multiples, and I never experienced it when you have a singleton. So you have one baby and you've got them in a pram and they're tiny, you quite often will get people that look and admire. And I've always liked the admirers. Some people don't like it, it's not their thing, I don't mind it. But when you have twins, it is very much people, it almost opens the floodgates for people to discuss your sex life with you, your fertility, things that you just, you know, did you want to? You know, were you not able to get pregnant? All those questions, and they do come quite readily when they're babies. Less so now. More of the stuff now is, wow, you've got your hands full. The 2 sets of twins only have 20 months between them, so now they look more like quads. So when we were away last week, we had just a couple walk past us on the beach and went, "Oh my God, quads! Wow, quads!" And we just grinned, because we don't always answer. We don't always go, "Actually, it's 2 sets of twins and they're 20 months apart. You know, yes, we planned them." You know, sometimes we just go, "Yeah," you know, and let people walk away, go, "Blimey, that woman's got quads." But yeah, we do. The questions do come, and I know that there's some twin communities where you can buy T-shirts that say, you know, "I was planned, I wasn't." You know, "Mum wanted me, Dad wanted me," that sort of thing. And yeah, we do get loads of it. And the better the mood I'm in, the more chattier I am about it. But you know, we do invite comment in the sense of the fact that we do all go out together, and you know, people go, "Wow," because they look at the ratios and they go, "Hang on a second, there's only 1 or 2 adults here." But actually now the assumption a lot, if I'm on my own with them, is that I'm a childminder.
Right.
Because my brigade don't, although lots of people go, "Oh, they do look like you, Kate," but they do all look different. So you know, I haven't got any identical twins, for example, so we're not looking at them going, "God, they're the same." So unless they're dressed in a similar fashion, which I still try and do sometimes, then people will say to me, "Oh, are you childminding?" No, actually, I roll. They're all mine. I roll a lot. That tends to be mine as well.
So from a work perspective then, so you're kind of juggling 6 kids, you run one heck of a business that has grown amazingly over
My first aid needs some first aid. Ignore the pictures.
It's like it knew we were talking about it.
Yeah.
That you I know that you obviously got a team behind you, but that you're still the leader, if you will. It's still your 7th baby, and still very much that you're juggling that with family life. Has anything been like easier than you thought it was going to be?
I don't know about easier. I think we have got better at me being aware of what we can do and what we can't do, but we're still learning. And I think as well as it being me, it's also important to add that it's my husband Matt as well, in the sense of when I first started Mini First Aid, was outside of the business. He was working for himself. He was a professional trombone player, completely randomly and away from sort of first aid. Yeah, who knew? Doing all these amazing tours, all these wonderful things, and he was running an events company.
Right.
And then obviously we then, as the business grew, and because I was pregnant, I needed an extra pair of hands, and he had the financial acumen that I didn't have. I mean, frankly, to be very frank about it, we wouldn't have the business that we've got without him, because I'd have run it broke before, by now, because I say yes to everything and it cost us a load of money. But so not only are we juggling 6 kids between us, but we're also juggling going to work together every day. And that in itself has been a real challenge, because we're human beings. We get fractious with each other. We tend to be nicer when there's other people around us. We have to behave when there's other people in the office. We're not allowed to use any bad language towards each other when there are other people around. But that in itself has been a real challenge for us. But what we have got better at is knowing where our boundaries are with the business. So one of the things that, and it's taken me a long time to get there, is about earmarking time for family and time for work. And I categorically cannot mix them together. It just doesn't work. So pushing a swing, checking my emails is not a thing. It can happen sometimes, but I try not to, because when I'm with my kids, I need to be with them, and they need to not, because they don't see a business, they just see a device and me on it. And so that's them, me not giving them their attention. So that bit we've got better with. We're still learning. And I try to ring fence my time off, putting my out of office on. I try to make sure that I'm not on emails all the time, but these things. So the juggle is still tough, but it is, I wouldn't say easier, it's just we've got better at it. But as the business has grown into the monster that it is now, a good monster, it's a happy monster, but a big monster, is that as it's grown, we've had to constantly keep changing. So something that works for us as a family today, in 6 months' time may not work. So at the moment I have Fridays where I'm at home. It might be that by October, Fridays is just not a day that I can be out of the office. It might be that it needs to change to Wednesday. So we're constantly evolving, and not always getting it right. There's a lot of tears and stress. Yeah.
So I asked my Instagram community if they had any questions for you today. And there were a few that came through, some of which you kind of already answered. But one was around kind of switching off just for you and your husband, and how often, does that actually happen? Or how important has that been from a a place of, from the business perspective, but also kind of just for you as a family?
So for Matt and I, minus the children, we try to book a babysitter at least once a month. And that might sound extravagant for some people, it may, and sometimes it's twice a month, I'll be brutally honest, because actually for us to go out, and it doesn't need to be for a fancy pants meal, it can be just to go to the pub, or it can be to go and grab a pizza, is that actually for us to go and do that gives us that break. It gives us the break from the house and all the jobs that come with the house. It gives us a break from the voices, many of them. It gets us a bedtime that we don't have to do, because we have a wonderful babysitter who will confidently put 6 children to bed, probably more efficiently than I do, and not be bothered by it. So it means that we also go, yes, no bedtime tonight. And she does wonderful stories and gets them on event. It's lovely, and they love her coming. And that for us has been a bit of a salvation, really. And sometimes it'll be on our own, sometimes it'll be because friends have invited us for something to eat, or there'll be something on. The concert, we went to see Sam Avery, comedian, at City Varieties in Leeds a few weeks back, which was just great. And we just went and giggled for a few hours. It's never a particularly late night anymore, because we can't handle late nights. We also can't handle drinking very much anymore. So it's much more tame, but we do that. And then, so for us to get away overnight, is more tricky, because to invoke childcare for 6 kids is a whole different realm when you're, our littlest are not quite there for going off for sleepovers. So it means that you've either got to get someone to come and stay at yours. So we've done it, but we've not done it particularly well. And we've sort of gone, actually, we'll just have an evening out. So that is my dream. That is my dream. And I've had a couple. I did on my 40th birthday, get to stay in a hotel and have breakfast in bed the next morning with no small children to talk to, which was amazing. but the organisation to get that was very stressful. So sometimes it's sort of, we're going, right, let's just stick with our evening. So we do try and do that. And then have that. And the other rule we have when we go out for dinner is you're not allowed to talk work. And Matt's stricter about that than I am. I always come with notes. These 3 things that I need to talk to you about, I really need to talk to you about them. And then he's like, no work. Or if I do need to talk work with him, I need to put it as right, we're going to go for a drink before dinner, and during the drinks, I need to ask you these 3 things. And then he's like, all right. And then that's it. So time together on our own is important, because otherwise we wouldn't have a relationship. We would just be functioning, and and I can't do it without him. So keeping our relationship alive is very, very important.
The other some of the other questions that came through were about the business and some of your experiences there. So I'm going to ask probably the one that I'm sure you've been asked this before, but was Dragon's Den what you expected it to be?
It was the scariest thing I've ever done in my whole entire life. And what we had as a benefit to us was the fact that we were going on, if you've seen it, that we took the children on with us, or 4 of our 6 kids we took with us to do the pitch. That was slightly directed by the BBC, because when we did our audition, we talked about children's first aid, and they were like, oh, this could be great TV. And we were going to work with children, like professional actor children that look to camera and know what they're doing. But because of COVID, and we were actually in a gap of lockdowns when we filmed our episode, but there was still social distancing and whatever in place. So you'll have seen, if you've seen episodes, that in the den where there's like a perspex screen in the lift between 2 entrepreneurs. Now, we didn't have to have that because we were one family unit, but we weren't allowed to go near the dragons. And the only children that I was able to be close to or to touch for the purposes of the demonstration had to be our own kids. So because we took our own kids on, it meant that the night before we were getting them all sorted in bed in the hotel, which is all very exciting, getting all set up. And then on the day, it was getting them set up. They all had outfits that we bought and didn't have any yuck or yogurt or anything down them. It was all that. They all had to go through hair and makeup. And so we did all that. And because of that, Matt and I literally didn't get a second to get nervous.
Yeah.
Until we were stood in the lift. And when we stood in the lift, they left us in there for ages. And my heart was literally beating out of my chest, because suddenly it was like, this is what I'm going to do. And then those celebrities that you've watched for years, I mean, Dragon's Den, we were in series 18, it's been running for years. I was brought up watching Dragon's Den, is that suddenly they're stood in front of you and they're really tough cookies. What I would say though is that they're really nice, and that this whole style of Dragon's Den, I think, has become warmer over the years. It's not good TV now to take the mick out of somebody's challenges or issues. That's not cool anymore. And so you get a warmer and more supportive style of questioning from the dragons, but they're still really tough. And on our episode, the bit that we filmed for 2 hours, and it's non-stop, you don't get to stop. If you make a mistake, they just keep the cameras rolling. In fact, you're not even really aware that the cameras are there. So the cameras are running, and we were interviewed or questioned for 2 hours solidly, and then BBC edited that down into 14 minutes of TV. And obviously they want to show you the good bits, and obviously they showed the really emotive bit about my family situation, but they also showed Matt losing it with the numbers. And we still get people. And the crazy thing is, for the rest of the pitch, he was absolutely number slick, and I stood there like a muppet, not knowing my numbers. But obviously, the way the edit came across was that he'd lost that bit. But it is tough. And the reason Matt lost the numbers was because the questions were coming so fast at him that they almost do it to make you stumble a little bit. And you've got to learn it all. There's no sheet of paper, there's no notes in your pocket if you don't know it. And so when you see people getting a really hard time because they don't know their numbers, they may well know them. It's just that in that lift to floor, they've just gone. Yeah. And you also don't know what direction the dragons are going to go. So, you know, we went in very much with, we wanted to pitch products, we wanted to pitch our first aid kit that we wanted to launch in retail or grow in retail. And actually, they were more consumed with the franchise side of the business, the classes, etc., which was great. But it meant that we had to think on our feet a lot with our questions. So, yeah, and we still think the kids got us the deal. They were amazing. And of course, they had no idea of our nerves or really the power of what they were going in to do. I mean, the twins were only 3. So they were like rolling around on the floor. And Alfie and Grace were just, I'm so proud of them. They were amazing. You know, they would just put their microphones on and went in and did it with just no, oh, this is fun. And they just saw it as 5 nice people sat there chatting to them and no more than that.
I mean, there's an innocence, isn't there, of seeing that whole process through the eyes of the kids. And
well, totally. And we absolutely, one of the things we talked about it, that we were like, we cannot let Alfie and Grace, the littlies didn't really have a clue what was going on, but we couldn't let Alfie and Grace have any sense that anything was weighted on them or that they had anything to be nervous about, because if we got that, then we, you know, I can't have my kids losing sleep over something that they're doing effectively for us. So even when they were having their microphones put on and we're stood like backstage waiting to get into the lift, even then we're like, yeah, you know, this is great, woo, high fives, off we go, kids. Yeah. So yeah, it was amazing. And I would, anybody who's considering, even thinking, I'm toying with putting an application in, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Oh, maybe I will. Something that you touched on there, that whole experience of doing it with the kids and what that then grounded in you, is something that I feel incredibly passionate about. That being a parent wakes different strengths in you. It puts you in so many different situations that you just can't even anticipate when they're, you know, first with you, that I think can often get overlooked by us as parents, but also as employers. And I know that you transitioned out of the corporate world a while ago now, similarly to me, but that return to work experience in general, for a lot of us, is about kind of, I think anyway, reconnecting with who we are and all those brilliant strengths that we bring. Are there, so I straight away I kind of spotted that strength of kind of compassion and empathy and the courage strength that's obviously come out when you're in that situation with the kids. Are there things that have kind of been awoken in you when you became a parent that perhaps weren't there before, or maybe they were but they've kind of been stretched?
I think one is that by default you become more efficient because you have to be. So for me it was because I was working flexibly, so I needed to get effectively my job, my full-time job, now done in 4 days, which is the case for a lot of people doing flexible working, is that there isn't necessarily a job share, there's just this sort of carve off of a day. So you have to become more efficient. You have to, so for me, when I was working in the corporate world, I was travelling back to London where the office was, and I'd have a day in the office where I had to get this and this done, and then I had to leave again. And so it was, you become very, very efficient, cut to the chase, not so much, not the niceties, but just the, right, what do we need to get done here? Let's make sure we do that and we use our time properly. So that, I think, the time efficiency piece, but also just this, I think, just this more understanding of people and the sorts of pressures that people can leave at home and then have to walk into the office composed and to do their job, you know, and actually you become more in, because they're so interwoven. And I think pre-children, I was very black and white about things because I had a really easy social life and a great job. So life wasn't really very complicated. And when the kids come along and you've got to function on having had 4 hours sleep, it does make you more compassionate to people's challenges. and probably more tolerant in that sense of challenges that people have. I went to a parents' evening at one of my kids' schools this week or a couple of weeks back, and one of their teachers has just had a baby, and the teacher is a dad, totally and utterly sleep deprived. And I just was like, rather than giving him a hard time because we haven't seen or read what we needed to read as a parent, I'm much more like, because actually the fact that he is a parent is probably shaping his whole teaching style towards my children.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a big grounding exercise is having children. And it's definitely, yeah, I'm a completely different person to how I was pre-kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Lots, so much to reflect on at that kind of point of change, isn't there?
Yeah.
So thank you so much for our conversation today. It has been so lovely to get to know you a little bit more. I'm sure loads of people are going to be watching and running out to want to go and buy some mini first aid products or get into a class, or I don't know, inquire about being a franchisee.
Yeah.
Where is best to come and find out more about the work that you do?
So if you search mini first aid, you'll land on our website, or you can look for us on social media. I also do references from my Noah's Ark family Instagram as well, so the two are interwoven, and you've got the option then. In fact, look, I've got one here. Look, here we go. I'm just looking at, and look, there's our little kit. And this kit now, actually, if you want to buy this first aid kit, you can get it in Boots. It's in John Lewis. It's in some Mamas and Papas retailers, and also you can pick them up at our first aid classes as well. And so if you jump on the website, you'll be able to pop in your postcode for where you live, and it will tell you where you can buy product, but it will also tell you the classes that are happening. And if you're watching and you think, oh, actually, isn't that just for babies? We teach parents and carers of children of all ages, because not everybody gets on a first aid course when their baby's teeny tiny. Sometimes it could be that they wait till they're a toddler. Sometimes we'll get people that say that my children are school age, but I've never actually learned what to do if something happens. And we hear a lot, unfortunately, in the media of tragic cases of things that either could be prevented or that could have been managed better had the parent or the carer had some more training. So yeah, please come. And we like to make it really affordable as well. The class are 25 quid a head. So it's not, the idea is that it's for everybody, and you can put the grandparents on too, because they're the worst. They're the worst when it comes to first aid knowledge. They've all had training decades ago. So yeah, please come and join us. And and if there's something you're not sure about with mini first aid, you want to ask a question, or if you think, oh, this sounds like something that I might like to do, or I might like to work in first aid teaching, we're recruiting right across the country at the moment because the classes have gone bonkers. So we need trainers, and we can train you to be a trainer. So don't worry if you're not already a first aider. It's all about the person for us. And we love recruiting parents because they get it. They're in the mindset of our audience. So yeah, please. And it's all on the same website. So just put in your postcode, you can put in your details, and we'll get someone to get in touch with you. But yeah, thanks, Charlotte. It's been lovely to chat to you.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.